مرحبا وأهلا بكم في برنامج داخل واشنطن. معكم مضيفكم روبرت ساتلوف. طوال مسيرته المهنية ركز دونالد ترامب على الظهور بمظهر الرجل الناجح بنفس قدر تركيزه على تحقيق النجاح الفعلي. ترامب الشخصية كان دوما بنفس أهمية ترامب الباني، وترامب رجل الأعمال، وترامب المطور العقاري. بطبيعة الحال تختلف الحياة كرئيس للولايات المتحدة عن الحياة كرئيس للشركة، فالهدف ليس الربح وإنما سلامة الشعب الأمريكي وأمنه ورخائه. وفي حياته العامة يعد مسؤولا عن 300 مليون أمريكي، وينقل الصحفيون كل كلمة ينطقها وكل ما يفعله. ربما تكون هناك أوجه تشابه، ولكن رئاسة شركة ورئاسة الولايات المتحدة وظيفتان مختلفتان تمام الاختلاف. سؤال اليوم هو: هل تبنى الرئيس ترامب نفس التركيز على الصورة والاتصالات في البيت الأبيض مثلما فعل في نشاطه التجاري الخاص؟ وكيف أثرت استراتيجياته الخاصة بالصورة والاتصالات على سياساته؟ لمناقشة هذه الأسئلة يسرني أن أرحب بمراقبين ممتازين للعلاقة بين السياسة والاتصالات، وهما ترينت دافي وباولو فان شراك. Welcome back to Dakhel, Washington. Image, communication, policy. Put these three items together, and I don't think we've ever before had a president like Donald J. Trump. And to discuss the confluence, we have Trent Duffy and Paulo von Schirach. Delighted to have you gentlemen with us today.
Thank you.
So let's start with an issue like trade. I don't think we've ever had a president before who has vowed to rip up trade deals, threaten our partners. Is this going to get us better trade relations? Trent, what do you think?
I think we don't know yet, but I do think we have had presidential candidates promise to rip up trade agreements and say that trade deals were very poor. I think that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump was elected president. That's why he won in a state like Wisconsin that nobody in America saw him actually winning. The question is will we get better trade agreements because of the way he's approaching it? We don't know, but he is bringing a fresh approach. He is a negotiator. He's put in place gentlemen like Mr. Ross at the Commerce Department, who is a long experienced businessman, and he's bringing about a new approach by saying we're going to walk away from NAFTA if we don't get what we want. The White House brought, or the Commerce Department brought, the tariff proceeding against the Canadians recently. Those are significant departures in an early days of the White House, which signals a change. So I think that it's likely we're going to get some action on this.
I mean, Paulo, threatening the Canadians, threatening the Mexicans,
well,
is this a strategy for trade success?
Look, it is a strategy for energizing Trump's base. That's what it is. It speaks, it's a raw emotion. We've been mishandled, mistreated. These idiots in Washington who preceded me didn't know what they were doing. They were horrible negotiators. I am a good negotiator. I'm bringing in my team of experienced people, and I'm going to get a better deal, and I'm going to bring all these jobs back to the United States. Frankly, this is a dream. It's a dream which will never be realized, at least not the way it's been presented. However, it doesn't matter at the moment. It didn't matter during the campaign because it energized people who were hopeless, who felt left behind, who felt that Washington had abandoned them and betrayed them. And there is this man who's a businessman who really knows about how to get things done. And he's promising us things that nobody else has been able to deliver prior. So doing this, or at least trying, or going through the motions of doing this, keeps that hope alive. Can he, Trump, now president, not campaigning, deliver as in bringing back millions of jobs, having the economy grow from 2% to 4%? I really don't think so. Not because, because of something inherently wrong with this idea, because it's an impossibility. And again, the complexity of trade and jobs and outsourcing and all that cannot be resolved by somebody who says, oh, I'm going to go in and strike a new deal. It just cannot be done. But it works well politically.
Trent, the Trump voters that you spoke about a moment ago, how long do you think they will give the president to deliver on the promise of re-energizing tired industries that have lost out to, say, foreign competitors?
I think they're going to give him 4 years, and I disagree a little bit with what Paula was saying. This is not a political ploy. This is not just about Trump voters. A proceeding by the Commerce Department is a real challenge. It was done in previous administrations by presidents of both parties, including my former boss, President George W. Bush, who brought similar proceedings in steel. It's a normal thing that happens. Our trading competitors do it. It's just the fact that Donald Trump, as president, is doing it at an early age, is sending a signal to the rest of our trading partners that he is going to be a different kind of president. So I disagree that this is some sort of political ploy. I think he believes that these trade agreements are flawed. I think he believes very strongly that some of our competitors are doing better than us because we gave too much away at the negotiating table. I think that's a strong belief. It's grounded in some policy, and I think that he's going to pursue that, not just because of the voters that agree with him, but that he and his economic team believe that the United States has been getting a raw deal at the negotiating table.
So, Paula, why are you skeptical that Donald Trump may not succeed, may not actually drive a better bargain?
Because it's extremely difficult. And again, I fully agree with what he's saying regarding, this kind of initiating this procedure against for the Canadian, soft pulp, lumber, what have you. By the way, this issue has been going on for about 20 years.
Yes,
it's not a new issue. There's nothing new about it. And again, if you look at it, what are the immediate consequences of this? That the price for lumber for construction in the United States is going to go up. Is that going to bring new jobs to the United States? I really don't think so. It may satisfy American producers and and others who say, hey, the Canadians are subsidizing their exports to us, and this is bad. We are at a disadvantage, and this is big business. It affects the construction industry, etc. But again, while one can parse and discuss the elements of policy, etc., the broader issue that Trump promised, and this is where I think he will have a hard time delivering, is that ultimately all this is not just about punishing people who behave badly according to international trade rules, but that this is ultimately supposed to bring jobs back to the United States. That, I think, it's a bit of a hope. I don't really think that the procedure about Canada or about subsidized steel imports or other things that may be cooking, so to speak, in the White House or the United States Trade Representative or Commerce are going to bring about these wanted changes, which are fundamentally changes in new employment, new jobs, and higher economic growth, which was the promise of President Trump. So while one can agree or disagree whether or not there is a ground for bringing up action, whether it's Canada or other issues, and I don't disagree with that. I mean, there's a legitimate issue there. Mm-hmm. What I'm questioning is the ultimate policy and political advantage that the president promised repeatedly during the campaign, that he was going to bring back by pursuing these policies and being tough, that he was going to bring back millions of jobs. Bringing, the actions I can understand. Bringing the jobs back, it's a different story because it's a lot more complicated.
Yes. All right, so let's step back just a little bit here. I want to ask you about the interplay of Donald Trump, the businessman, and Donald Trump, the national leader. Where do these two meet, and what are the limits of trying to be both at the same time? Can you be a businessman and be the president of the United States? I'm not talking about his personal businesses. I'm talking about the approach of being a corporate executive. And where does that stop? And you have to adopt a different persona to be successful as president of the United States.
Well, I think that you're seeing both leadership styles start to be evident in the president. He's using the skills that he's learned over a career in business in the White House. He's learning which ones are effective and which ones aren't. He cannot walk away from the table. He cannot strong arm his opponents. He's got to learn to work with members of his own party, which he's never had to do before. He's got to realize that while he has the most powerful office in Washington, it is not a dictatorship, and that he can't just wave a wand and get what he wants. We do see less of the nitpicking like crowd size and some of these early stumbles that were evident in the first days of the White House now, and you saw more of a, I would say, a more seasoned White House go into this latest round of healthcare negotiations, which the House passed recently. So I think you start to see a maturation of the president. I think it's going to serve him well.
Is the president maturing, moving in a positive direction?
Look,
Paulo?
I really hope so, because obviously we want, this is our president, and we want our president to succeed and to be a good president. I'm a little hesitant at the moment, and again, granted, and in fairness to him, is really, really early days. The record will be seen, at the end of the four-year term, or at the very least prior to the midterm elections in 2018. I think that there is a problem here that I don't know to what extent it has been addressed and how it can be resolved. That is, Trump is much of his rhetoric seems to be aimed at his base, right? The people who got him elected, the people who were really upset, the people who lost their jobs, the people in the Rust Belt, the people who got him over the top in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And that's okay. You want to cultivate your own base. You don't want to lose them along the way. However, the president favorables are what, 44% right now? Somewhere 40 to 44%. You cannot govern the country at 44%. You have to broaden your base. And therefore, this means that the message, the tone and the scope of the message has to change to be more inclusive. Now, how you do it, which occasion, which opportunity, which issues you want to choose to broaden your appeal, that's up to the strategist at the White House and the people who are advising the president. I am not sure that has been settled yet, because the way I see it is still message that tends to be aimed at a particular constituency. And also, I think that there is this sort of irrepressible tendency for the extemporaneous commentary, which I think sometimes backfires. And that is something that, again, I am not suggesting that because he's president, he should be, kind of vague and evasive as a matter of purpose in order not to attract any criticism. That's not smart. But the fact that his comments quite often tend to sound hostile and adversarial to the others, to the other side, those who lost the elections, let's be frank, the Democrats, right? It's not helpful at this particular juncture, the way I see it, to bring this coalition, which in my view would be ideal if the president can retain his base, but broaden it to include, say, moderate Democrats, in the same way as Ronald Reagan managed to do quite expertly back, it was a different era, different people, but he managed to stay a conservative, but win over a substantial number of Democrats and effectively govern from the middle.
Okay, when we come back, Trent, I'm going to ask you whether and how long Donald Trump can sustain himself at 40, 45%, and what he needs to do to expand that number in just a moment. Again, our panelists include Trent Duffy. Trent is one of Washington's best-known professionals at strategic communications and media relations. He served in the administration of President George W. Bush for 4 years, including as Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Press Secretary. Prior to working in the White House, he served as Communications Director for the White House Office of Management and Budget. As Press Secretary for the Republican National Committee, he worked for 2 congressmen and for the governor of New Jersey. Sitting to his right is Paulo von Schirach. Paulo is the president of the Global Policy Institute, a Washington think tank that focuses on economics, energy, education, and global affairs. He also teaches international affairs and economics at BAU University here in Washington. Paulo has lectured widely on U.S. politics, economics, and security issues, and as a consultant has focused on energy, innovation, and sustainable development. He has served as Director of Communications and then Senior Research Fellow at the Atlantic Council, Deputy Director of the Global Security Project, and more recently, Adjunct Professor at Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service. So Trent, you've seen presidents deal with highs and lows in terms of public opinion. How long can a president be effective if they're at the mid-40s in public opinion rating?
I think they can be effective as long as it takes. I mean, ultimately, elections are a choice between one candidate and another. It's true that a president's approval ratings do translate somewhat into what is perceived as political capital. But in the administration of George W. Bush, who I had the pleasure of working with, sometimes you have to make difficult decisions which are unpopular. So there's always this interesting dynamic that the press and the media and the onlookers in Washington like to say, well, the president isn't bold enough and courageous enough to make unpopular decisions like on entitlements or security or some of these other issues. But then they flip around and say, well, his approval ratings are terrible, so he can't get what he wants. So there's a different dynamic going on here. Approval ratings and polls do count. What matters more, economics, how people feel, whether they're getting a job, whether they see things moving in the right direction, those are much more relevant and directly important to a president's success and his ability to do what he thinks. And the approval ratings are a lagging indicator. We just got jobs reports recently in the United States that show that the economy is growing faster. There were more job creation than the Wall Street economists predicted. The stock market, for all intents and purposes, has been on a boom. So for all the alarmist rhetoric that Trump is going to start a trade war and destroy the U.S. economy, Wall Street isn't buying it, and neither are the job markets. And ultimately, what's going to define President Trump's success is the economy, the midterm elections, and his own re-election, should he choose to run again.
And so actually, I mean, in theory, you could have a very good economy. Do people think things are getting better, and the Republicans could get walloped in the midterm elections at the same time?
I doubt that. I doubt that would happen. Usually those two are not mutually exclusive. If things are on the right track, if the economy is going well, I think any sitting politician sees that as a very, very good way for them. Now, as previous politicians have learned, even the strong economy is a bit of a lagging indicator, but people feel good about the United States, where the economy is now, and that's going to help propel any incumbent politician.
So people feeling at least better than they did a year or two ago about the economy, how much of this would you say is the Donald Trump factor? How much of this are underlying recovery trends in the economy?
Well, look, certain things, President Trump has nothing to do with. The growth of the stock market, maybe, it's induced, there's a Trump bump, since the election.
That's a direct consequence from the election.
Indeed, that's definitely that. But, the growth, economic growth, by the way, we had a horrible first quarter. So is that his fault? I don't know. I don't think so. Things are, the trend line, GDP growth under 1%, I wouldn't, if that would be a metric, I would say it's pretty bad in terms of a result. But again, one quarter doesn't define an economic trend. We had very good employment report today, 200,000 jobs added. We're 4.4 unemployment rate. This is pretty good for any president, Trump or anybody else. So I think that to the extent that the economy, because of the Trump factor or other dynamics which are independent of the president, continue to go along this way, things look good. And any president, rightly or wrongly, and I think usually wrongly, are either they take credit for economic growth and they get blamed when things don't go well with the economy. This has happened for Republicans, for Democrats, for everybody. However, a caveat. Remember the elections of 2012. The economy was not good. Things were not going well. Obama was president. And we had Mitt Romney who said, this guy, he's an amateur. I'm a pro. give it to me. I know how these things are done. What the Obama people managed to do was to camouflage this whole thing, and he said, this gentleman is essentially a bloodsucker. He is a vulture capitalist. He has produced nothing. He has added no value. He's a greedy guy. His running mate wants to destroy the welfare state, that being Paul Ryan, the current Speaker of the House, and killed him, even though the numbers would have said that Mitt Romney was right and Obama was wrong, meaning the economy wasn't doing well. There was a recovery, but was very feeble, and that therefore the ability to manage the recovery in a good way of the incumbent president was questionable. So messaging in that case really mattered. But I agree with my colleague here that in the end the voters says him or who.
Okay, Paulo, Trent, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Fascinating discussion, policy, media, communications, and where they interact. Thank you for joining us in Dakhel, Washington. بهذا نصل إلى نهاية هذه الحلقة من برنامج داخل واشنطن. إذا كانت لديكم أي استفسارات أو تعليقات حول هذه الحلقة وخاصة حول العلاقة بين الرئيس ترامب ووسائل الإعلام، أرجو أن تراسلوني مباشرة على عنوان البريد الإلكتروني التالي insidewashington@alhura.com. معكم روبرت ساتلوف. شكرا لكم وإلى اللقاء.